Hello, this is the Jordan Research Center project for CM 116 scheduling. My name is Salvador Anaya.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Sosa.
My name is Aiden Hakey.
My name is Jose Lopez. This slide explains the digital tools we used to plan and develop the schedule for the Jordan Research Center project. We used a combination of Procore, Google Sheets, and Primavera P6, with each platform playing a specific role in our scheduling workflow. Primavera P6 provided a software that allowed us to make a schedule with the necessary durations and lags. Procore provided us with the drawing and specifications needed, and Google Sheets allowed us to gather the information in an easily accessible and organized manner. On this slide, I will walk through our pre-planning and scheduling approach for the Jordan Research Center. The team provided individual scopes of work. We then reviewed project drawings and specs to extract measurable qualifications, which is the CY, concrete, SF finishes, and LF underground utilities. We then defined scopes of work to be self-performed, concrete and drywall, and paint by the GC. Pre-planning guided by team discussions and field experience. Proper sequence established. Combined curriculum knowledge with practical insight and resulting in realistic industry aligned schedule.
Hello, I'm gonna be talking about the work breakdown process. This slide outlines how we broke down the project into manageable components to help organize and control the construction schedule. We divide the Jordan Research Center project into 23 major components, each representing a key phase of construction. These included early stage tasks like project management, initial site preparation, and concrete foundation installation. Next came the level 1 through level 3 concrete structures, followed by steel stud framing, which we broke down by floor for second and third. We then moved into phases like rough MEP installation, exterior panels and finishes, installation, and drywall and paint, also divided by the floor. Later phases included finish MEP, roof MEP systems, bathroom and interior finishes, and exterior scopes like landscaping and parking lot paving, leading up to the project closeout. Each of these components included at least one scheduled activity, which all contributed to a total project duration of 324 days. Yeah, so this right here is our independent activity duration calculation. Basically, this slide shows how an actual snippet of our duration and cost calculations taken directly from our Google Sheets using the pre-scheduling phase. We source production rates from the Artist Means book, past project benchmarks, and valuable input from team members with field experience. This allowed us to set realistic expectations for activities like the CMU wall installation, for like the we also followed a simple but effective formula. Duration equals quantity divided by production rate. For example, if we were installing the 3,000 square feet of flooring at a rate of 1,000 square feet per day, the calculation duration would be 3 days. You can see our calculations here for vegetation removal, concrete build out, and our disabled parking signage.
So the cool thing about Primavera P6 is that it allows us to link activities together to create what's known as a network. It's basically a way to organize the sequencing for the work breakdown structure. A key understanding of what goes before what scope is super important to create this. Um, and then also with identifying these activities, it's also important to understand the relationship between them. For instance, we have finish to start, which means that an activity must finish before you begin another activity, or start to start, meaning that the activities can begin at the same time. That's where a type of lag that basically states that even the relationship states start, it's after a certain amount of days that it can actually begin. And then as well, we'll do the our schedule is very tight. trying to get it done in approximately a year. Some of the critical paths include the following, which is like mobile and general conditions on the platform and reinforcement installation, install structural columns, and rough MEP install. These activities, like I mentioned, have a tight timeline due to the schedule. So it's important that there's not a lot of shift, which is why they're known as the critical path with zero flow. And also resource allocation, something that we took into account as a team because it's super important, right? Like I mentioned, there's a lot of activities that follow under the critical path. In order for us to produce and actually put work into place, we need to have all materials and resources on site at that time. So therefore, getting shop drawings, having material on site, understanding lead times is super important to make sure that we're able to stay on schedule and produce at a efficient rate, which is obviously our goal. And understanding where tasks overlap is super important as well because we're able to multitask and get 2 trades or scopes out of the way at the same time. But like I mentioned, or like I keep emphasizing, understanding where we can place the material and most importantly, having that material is the key to a successful schedule.
The baseline. So the baseline of this project is the most important step because it provides the reference point that everything else bases itself off of, and it allows us to measure the progress and performance of the project as it goes on. And so for this one, we created a basic schedule or create a basic baseline in Primavera, and this baseline captured all of our start and finish dates, our durations, and the sequencing for every task. For example, like for tasks like concrete, like pouring the concrete foundation, if it starts later than its initial date, we can figure out how much delay it'll have on the overall project. Having a baseline also allows us to keep track of the critical path and whether they are staying on schedule. Since many of these tasks, like the MEP stall and the interior finishes, have no flow or any deviation from the baseline, it could signal a risk to the overall completion of the project being on time. Primavera's baseline tools allow us to work better overall with scheduling. Progress analysis. After 3 weeks, we found that our project has been on schedule. It's everything where it should have been concluded has been, like key tasks like receive notice received, mobilize general conditions, and bonds and permits have been completed, while other smaller tasks like starting initial site preparations have either been completed or they are on their way. There wasn't any deviations or delays to the project, and everything is going fine right now.
I'll be talking about the discussion. Basically, our team's work on the Jordan Research Center schedule was a valuable experience that we could use later in our future careers. Team members with field experience helped shape the schedule to reflect real-world practices, which kept us on track and avoiding common issues like overlapping trades or realistic durations. One of our main challenges was time management. Basically, balancing school, we all have work, and team responsibilities was as well a challenge we faced. Despite all of that, we pulled together and developed a well-structured, realistic schedule. The project showed us how important teamwork is, early planning, and clear communication for success.
To conclude this presentation, we want to emphasize that thankfully for the knowledge that we gained in this course about understanding the sequencing and scopes of work, and also on top of that, our experience in our internships and more than that as well, helped us identify how long the activities are actually going to take and how to use these softwares. We worked really well together, and we did our best to create an accurate representation of what creating the Jordan Research Center would be like. Even though we had issues with accessing certain softwares, we were able to overcome that, thankfully to the help of our professor and after working together, we collaboratively and cohesively created a really well-designed project. So we would just like to say thank you for listening to this presentation. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.